What's going on, guys? I'm Zachary Gray, and today we're going to be out here in the Pine Savannahs of South Louisiana looking for a pygmy rattlesnake. Let's go.
Louisiana is home to quite a few snake species, most of which I've gotten a chance to see. But one of the snakes that I have yet to see locally is the pygmy rattlesnake, the world's smallest rattlesnake species. On this adventure, we're going to be exploring the pine savannas and wetland habitats these snakes call home, and along the way, we should also see some other incredible reptiles.
Now what we're going to be doing today is looking for pygmy rattlesnakes here in Louisiana. Now, there is a solid population of them here, but they are very difficult to find. As you can see, there is a lot of pine savanna habitat here. And we're talking about a small snake. We're talking about something that big. Now it is starting to heat up for the day. I'm not sure if they're going to be moving out around this time. Now there are a lot of other species that you can find here, so hopefully we'll see some other snakes. There's lots of lizards and lots of amphibian life that you can see here as well that we actually haven't seen before, but my main goal today is to find a pygmy rattlesnake. Yo! Okay. I don't typically see them during the day like this. Oh! Where's he going? Okay. I've got to be really careful with this lizard because, as their name suggests, glass lizard, his tail could break very, very easily. Don't break your tail. Don't break your tail. Don't break your tail. It's okay. It's okay. No. If I can get him to calm down, then he definitely won't break his tail off. I always try to be careful with these. Have a look at that. That is an eastern glass lizard. That is gorgeous. This one's pretty. I've seen quite a few of these this year, but this is definitely the prettiest. Look at that, he's almost got his full tail, barely broken off at the tip, which is pretty rare. Typically you're gonna see these lizards with their tail broken off right here, and while their tail does quote unquote grow back, it'll never be the same. It's just cartilage that grows at the tip, so meaning it can't even break off again. So it's a one-time use escape. Most of their body is tail. In fact, his tail could break off right there. And that's how big the actual lizard is about that. The tail is super long, and they'll break that off, and the predator will get away with this whole chunk of their body, pretty much half their body, and the lizard will be perfectly fine. All of its organs are up here. So what you'll notice is they go super, super quick, and when you pick them up, they'll go stiff. But that doesn't mean he won't start flopping around and being crazy, so I typically don't try to handle these lizards for too long. I actually have broken one of their tails in a past video, which is always a bummer to see. But it does happen. If it ever happens to you, don't feel bad. I mean, it is their natural defense, and it is what they do. But, you know, I always do my best to try not to break their tails off. He's got that black and yellow speckling. A lot of people will see these and think, oh, it's like a speckled king snake or something. No, this is a glass lizard. They're an interesting little creature for sure. This is interesting. Look at this. Looks like something's grabbed this lizard before. Honestly, looks like a snake, like a racer snake or something grabbed it. They're a very whippy lizard, so they can oftentimes escape predators, but you can see it got grabbed on the body. This lizard was close to losing its life. That is awesome to see out here. They're actually pretty rare, but I've seen quite a few this year, which is pretty interesting. These pine savannas are an amazing habitat for these guys, but it's very, very, very rare to see them out and about. Typically, you'll see them on the road, but occasionally you can walk up on them like this, which is pretty crazy. And as you can see, he was getting out of my way quick, so they are very fast and very good at avoiding predators. They spend a lot of their time underground, and most of the snakes that would be eating them would be snakes that are going to follow them underground, like king snakes, racers, and things like that. Very beautiful lizard, not what we're looking for, but an awesome thing to see. We're going to go ahead and put this guy back and keep looking for pygmies. Alright, see you, little whippy dude. That's a cool lizard.
While you'll typically be seeing pygmy rattlesnakes coiled up along logs and trees, there are rare occurrences where they can be found hiding under logs. So I always keep my eyes peeled for any that could potentially have snakes under them.
Oh, snake. Oh, it's an earth snake. Oh, look at this. Check that little dude out. I think that this is a smooth earth snake. There are actually two different earth snakes here. There's the smooth earth and the rough earth. Rough earths are a bit less common here, so I'm just going to assume that this is a smooth earth snake. The rough earth snakes, on their dorsal scales, they do have, technically speaking, they have those ridge scales, So, you know, I'm pretty sure this is a smooth. Now, these are little fossorial snake species. I typically see them under little logs and stuff, but I can oftentimes see them kind of cruising around a little bit too in the evening times. They are a fairly common snake, but they're so small and they spend so much of their time underground that not too many people are going to see them. They've got a little pointy nose there, specifically made for, you know, just shoveling through dirt and stuff. They do well in these piney habitats, but you can find them virtually anywhere. Whitish belly, cute little guy, pointy little nose. This is actually an adult smooth earth. They actually can get bigger than this. I've found them probably about twice this size, but they really don't get much bigger typically. It's got some black spots on them. They can vary in coloration, and they can have a stripe down their back. You can see this one's got a little bit of a faded stripe, but not too much to them. We're gonna go ahead and let this snake go and keep looking for others. All right, see you, little snake. Boop, 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 boop.
These vast stretches of pine forest harbor many species, but it's hard to find anything here. Essentially, this is looking for a needle in a haystack, especially when the snake you're looking for can be the size of a quarter. Luckily, not all the snakes here are super hard to spot.
Holy smokes, look at that! No way! No way! What? Have a look at that corn snake! Oh my goodness! That snake is glowing. Well, this is a great example of a Louisiana corn snake. I mean, this snake is glowing. Look at that belly. Jeez, this is the prettiest corn snake I've ever seen. It's crazy to see one on a day like today. I mean, I guess they will be moving around, but the odds of seeing one, that is amazing. Now, I would go out of my way to say that corn snakes in Louisiana are definitely an uncommon or even rare species here. These species are more common in places like Florida, Alabama, and Georgia, places more along the East Coast and more east of here. This would be considered a common snake. But here in Louisiana, I mean, I've only found a little handful of corn snakes, and this would definitely be the prettiest one that I've ever found. Pretty calm, got an iridescence to it. I can't tell if that's because it's about to shed or it's because it just shed. Now, we've got a couple small populations of these snakes here, and they actually coincide with pygmies a little bit here. This same habitat is generally where you'll find both of them. This kind of pine savanna, you can see everything's been recently burnt. Corn snakes you'll typically find around pine biomes and sometimes even oak scrub biomes. However, here in Louisiana, there are areas you can find these snakes that there's no pine, which is very abnormal because this snake typically won't live in areas like that. Now, I've actually never found a defensive or even mean corn snake in my state. In fact, the meanest corn snake I ever found was actually down in the Everglades. Here, I've never had one try to strike at me, really. I mean, this is pretty typical. In fact, this one's actually kind of active. I mean, I'm guessing it's just because of the time of day that we're messing with it. But this is typically what corn snakes will do. When you pick them up, they'll just kind of sit like this. And you can see it's mostly orange, not much patterning. Like, the patterning is kind of faded. It's just a bright orange color. And I mean, I don't even know how this does for camouflage, because I mean, I could see this snake pretty much immediately. I guess if they're hiding in and around pine stumps and pine bark, stuff's not going to be seeing them out, but I don't really know the advantage of having this bright orange coloration. I don't know if it would work like aposematic coloration where it would warn predators not to touch me or what, but all I can say is that is an outstanding snake to see out here. Definitely not our target, but honestly, if this is the only snake that we find today, I'm thrilled. I mean, this is an awesome snake to be seeing out here. All right, see you, little snake. There you go, back on your way. Come on, get. Boop, boop, boop. Woo, that's fast.
What a score, and an amazing snake to see. But today, pygmy rattlesnakes have definitely eluded us.
All right, guys, so we just got a call from a friend of mine, and they actually just found a pygmy. We're gonna go out and film this, so we didn't find one ourselves, but if we get a chance to film one, I definitely want to film one. So while this will not count as my first pygmy rattlesnake, I am very excited that we're still going to get to show you guys one, because they are pretty difficult to find. This is going to be cool.
Having never seen a live Louisiana pygmy rattlesnake, I'm excited to finally see one up close. Even if I didn't find it myself, I'll definitely take the opportunity to see my first ever in my home state.
Holy smokes. Have a look at that little pygmy. That is a Louisiana pygmy rattlesnake. I really do not want to disturb this snake. If I mess with this snake, it's going to be really difficult to handle him, especially in this kind of environment. It would not take long for him to vanish into this grass and into all this other growth. So I'm going to do my best to leave him coiled up. That's the best way to deal with a pygmy when it's like this. Now you can tell they look kind of similar to a dusky pygmy here in Louisiana. It's kind of got that darkish coloration, but they're going to have a lighter gray than the duskies, but their patterning is also going to look like that of a western. Now there is a solid population of pygmy rattlesnakes in this area, but they are very difficult to find. You can see how small this snake is. This is an adult pygmy rattlesnake, and it's about that big fully coiled up, but the babies will be about that big. Now you might wonder, what does a rattlesnake this size even eat? Well, these snakes primarily are going to be feeding on little tiny lizards, but in this habitat in particular, cricket frogs are going to be their main staple diet. Cricket frogs and oak toads, those are two things that this pygmy rattlesnake would be eating in here. Now typically what they're going to be doing is coming out here in the morning, laying up on these logs, laying on the bark underneath them to heat up, and then during the day they're going to be very difficult to spot. They're going to be cruising through this grass, actively hunting for frogs and other things, and you can also see these snakes moving around on the roads in the evening time. Now I would actually consider this to be a pretty dull colored snake compared to other pygmies. You get the dusky pygmies in Florida that have that super dark coloration, and of course the Carolina pygmies, which can range from a coloration similar to this to that bright red coloration. Now one thing that's interesting about pygmy rattlesnakes, they do in fact have a rattle. However, it is almost worthless when it comes to rattling. You could get super close and still almost not hear it. But one thing that they will do with that rattle is they'll just kind of wave it in the air. When they're really agitated, they'll just kind of hold it up and wave it like this. And they'll also use it as a lure. They'll lure in little lizards and frogs, like we said, cricket frogs, and it'll look like a little worm. And then when that little frog or that little lizard's come close, they'll whack it. And their venom is specifically made to be eating smaller prey. It's very much so enough for something like a cricket frog or a small lizard. Now this snake is actually pretty thin. It doesn't look like it's gotten a really good meal yet, but that's kind of to be expected this time of year, spring. They're just starting to really wake up and get moving. So as the summer goes, I'm sure he's going to fatten up and get quite a bit bigger. They can actually be about twice this size on rare occasions, but this would be a typical size adult pygmy rattlesnake for this area. Now so few of these snakes are found in Louisiana and Mississippi, it is actually fairly difficult to get a good reading on how many of these snakes there actually are. There's considered to be good populations and they are not an endangered species. However, they are very rare to find. In fact, I've still never technically found one on my own. Somebody else found this snake and gave us a call. Beautiful snake, and I am glad that we're getting to see this snake, and I am glad that we're finally getting to show you guys a pygmy rattlesnake from my home state of Louisiana. Well, this little pygmy just started moving, which is kind of what I didn't want. So as you can see, even though this would technically be considered a venomous snake, he's being very calm. They're not an aggressive species, and unfortunately, in places where they're very common like Florida, people do step on this snake, and a bite from this snake could potentially kill you if it's a bigger one and it hits the right spot. There's a ton of variables with snake bites. However, if you ever are bit by a pygmy rattlesnake, make sure you do seek medical attention. They are a venomous snake. While it is very rare to die from one of these snakes, it's still very good to be cautious. But they are a beautiful animal, and as you can see, perfectly calm. Normally, they're really whippy, and they try to get out of your way really quickly. But this one is being very, very chill. Look at that. I like that. I didn't think you were going to be this well behaved. I thought he was going to take off immediately. Now what's really interesting about pygmy rattlesnakes in Louisiana is there's actually two other populations not too far from here that have actually been considered extirpated or removed. And there used to be actually just hearsay of red pygmy rattlesnakes in Louisiana. We've gotten to see red pygmy rattlesnakes before over in the Carolinas, but to see one in Louisiana would be insane. Considered to be impossible. There's no actual records of red pygmies, just hearsay, but I would love to see one if they are still around in the state. Well guys, this is a beautiful snake. We're going to go ahead and let it on its way. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to go and check out the one we did with the red pygmy rattlesnake over in North Carolina. And we will see you guys next time. Alright, see you little buddy. Back onto your tree bark. Go go. Boop, boop, boop. Awesome stuff.